what's up? My name is Ren. Welcome back to the studio. You know, art for me has always been a way to give form to feelings. It's just a way to bring more shape and order into my life that can sometimes feel like it's moving way too fast. You know, lately collage has really had a hold on me. In my art journal, I've been using it just to express myself with layers and textures, just in a way that sometimes words can't. So I want to share with you today how I'm using collage in my mixed media sketchbook to tell visual stories and narratives. I'm so excited about this topic. You know, I always have my little sketchbook here with me, and I'm just so excited to share it with you today. I'm going to walk you through how I choose various collage elements, how I'm using my intuition to guide me through composition, and just different thought processes and themes that I'm going through to layer all of my elements together. This is definitely a topic that gets me so excited because it brings me back to elementary school, like in art class when I had my scissors and my glue stick and all my papers. It's just, collage is just filled with like so much play and whimsy. And I'm so excited to get into this video today. Definitely grab your art supplies, put this video up and have fun with it. If that sounds good to you, definitely stick around. Let's talk about how to use collage for storytelling in your art journal or in your mixed media sketchbook. You know, my art is heavily based in emotion. So when I begin a collage page, I love to think about what I want these pages to hold for me. Is it a memory? Is it a feeling? Or is it a story that I'm living through currently or in the past? And I like to gather images, scraps of paper, or even revisit past work that holds a personal narrative for me. I have a stack of items that I want to share with you today, and we're going to talk through how to choose various elements for your collage spread. This is so much fun. I love talking about collage because it brings me back to my childhood, and I think tuning into your childlike state just gives you the purest form of artistic expression. So this is my mixed media sketchbook. I shared it with you in my last video. You should definitely check that one out. I'm going to drop the link for you below. I love the texture of the paper in this mixed media sketchbook, and it's great for creating on the go and just making little spreads of collage. I just love this little sketchbook here. So let's talk about all of the elements that I have here. Now, when I think about collage, I collect papers that, you know, I love to collect scraps of papers, and I often save papers from like old work, maybe practice work that I was doing, and I just, you know, maybe the work didn't go as planned, but I often like to revisit my past work just as a way to honor my artistic journey. I really believe that there's value in returning to your former work and rethinking your work in a new way. So often I have a bin that I have loads of paper because I hate to waste paper anyway, but here you can see I have little scraps of paper, and I use these also in like spreading paint in my collage, so I often have scraps of paper. So here, this is from a torn page of paper, like a spread that I was working on, and I just tore. This is like the spine of a spiral notebook, and I love this because it has a lot of texture with the perforations, and it creates a great visual texture. And I love to think about texture in my mixed media sketchbook and also in my collage spread. So I often have pieces of painted papers that either I'll write on or I'll just make marks on. I love to practice making various marks and seeing what I come up with, basically. So I also have, this is actually packaging that came with my mixed media sketchbook. And I often love to save packaging because I think great packaging is art unto itself. Like, this is a scrap of paper from a package, and I loved the contrast between the bright color with this small piece of abstract artwork. I thought this was so pretty. So I saved this. And I have so many papers that I save because I think you can always reuse and rethink how you're using, your old work or your papers in different ways. This is also a piece of paper from this page. I also like to go through vintage books or books just that I love, and I paint on them or draw on them. And I love using books in my collage spreads because, I think books are actually pieces of art to live with. I think books are living and breathing things. I think books are so alive, and I love to continue the process of creation that the author or maybe the illustrator of that book began, and I love to interpret that in my own way. So using books is a great way to add more of a visual story to your collage spread. So this is a piece of paper that I was practicing a technique on. This is just black paint, and I don't remember what I was dropping onto the page to create this texture. To me, it looks like some sort of rock formation or something that you would find maybe in the ocean. I think this is it's a really cool kind of texture, like a visual texture. So that's why I saved this piece of paper. Again, I have so many different scraps of paper. These are color swatches, which is something that you can always also include in your collage spreads. Often in the process of creation for me, things will come up in my mind, and I love to write things down, whether they're affirmations for me or just things I want to remember or reflect on. Sometimes I'll just leave these little notes to myself, and I love to keep them and revisit them. This is actually, I didn't even know I had this in here. This is actually a page from a book that I painted on. And I love this because this page had so many different elements on it. So this page was talking about flowers and forget-me-nots, I believe. And when you would pick the flower and say, he loves me not, he loves me not. So this is talking about that here. And I just included my own, washes of paint and just some random marks. So this page is actually a page from the sketchbook that I just tore out, and I kept it as a template just to, if I wanted to create an extra spread. I use it sort of as a measurement guide, as a template for tearing out other pieces of paper to include in my collage spread. Here, this is just some practice work that I think I'm going to include this today in this collage spread. I love the colors. I love all the sort of muddy greens and the deep burgundies. So I think I'm going to use this today. I'm just going through it with you today, just talking it through, because collage for me is something that's very instinctual, and we're going to talk more about that, how I love to create a visual narrative through composition. So here are more scraps of painted papers. I have loads of them. This is actually a piece of a book that I ripped out. And I'm just showing you all of the different elements that you can think about when thinking about creating a visual story or a visual narrative. This is just color swatches of green, various greens that I was working through on a particular day. This is an example of me revisiting old work. And what I'll do sometimes is I'll go through, if I have a large piece of paper, for instance, if I have a piece of artwork like this, I'll go through and use my hands like as a window just to visually, see what part of the composition that I might want to include, and I'll rip it out. And this is an example of that. I love the paint bleed in this flower here. I love the way the paint just concentrates here and it just bleeds out. I love this. So this is just an example of me revisiting old work and thinking about how I might want to reuse it in a different way. I have so many scraps of paper. This paper is just, I think this is old packaging paper, like stuffing of packaging. I often like to keep all of the inserts of packaging. Sometimes I paint on them or use them in different ways in my sketchbooks. Here's another example of using books. This is just a page in an old vintage book that I have. And I love this page because in the corners around the edges, you can see the worn texture. You can see the worn color of the paper, and it says creativity. And this is just an example of using books in your collage spread. I love using words and books and writing in my collage spread just to add a bit of narrative and just to increase the depth of storytelling in my visual composition. Now, I don't rip all of my books. I mean, certain books I love to keep together to reread in the future, but some books I just love to live with. I often rip out quotes and parts of books and fold them up and keep them in my wallet, in my purse, and just take them with me. So I have a quote here, and I like this page because on one side it has an illustration and it has some text here, but on the other side it has a quote that I might want to use. It says, "The moment you become aware of a plant's emanation of stillness and peace, the plant becomes your teacher." And this is a beautiful quote. I think I might use that today in this collage spread. Here is this is the packaging of my mixed media sketchbook. It's cotton root paper. And I love this paper of the packaging that it came with because it's kind of sturdy. And I think it can hold up with using washes of paint and drawing on and adding various collage elements to it. And I like this element here to use in a spread. Here, this is just another example of me ripping up some old work. And I often crumple the pages too. That's why you see it's all wrinkled, because I crumple the pages up to create more texture. And I think I actually ripped some of this out already and I used it in another collage spread. And I love that this composition is simple. It's just black and white. There's no color. So it can add a lot of variety in your visual composition. Here's another example of just painted papers from old work that I have and I may want to revisit. I love revisiting my old work, as I said before. Here is a page from a poetry book. I've used this before in collages. I'm going to show you some collages that I've done. These are painted papers that I basically just ripped pages from books that I love. I love the visuals on this page and I just painted over them. I love because these are like small cards and it has various elements of text and visual florals that I can use. And here are some more painted papers, lots of painted papers that I like to paint on. I also like to practice mark making and making different marks to use. I just love to express myself sometimes in just making random marks and practicing the way my hands move with different art making tools. I've been enjoying focusing on texture in this mixed media sketchbook so much. And I did share that theme with you in my last video. You should definitely go and check that video out. I love that video. So here in this spread, I was thinking about sort of like a secret pages, right? Because this spread, the page of the book that I took from, I actually ripped it in half and I arranged it in reverse. So the page like this is actually supposed to be attached here originally, but I reversed them. And it was talking about arranging shadows. It was basically talking about floral arranging, and it led me to think about like secret pages. So I covered this with some fabric, which I love to include different textures, including fabric. And I do have some fabric swatches here. I have ribbons that it creates a bit of softness and adds another layer of texture into building a collage spread. I also have washi tape, which I will use from time to time, but I love to use fabric just to add more texture, maybe even more color into the story and into the page of the collage. I have some thread, I have some twine, and these elements just add various textures, whether that's softness, or maybe it also adds a bit of visual line into the collage. And we'll talk about all that in just a second. So in this collage, I did I did glue these papers in the reverse and just kind of created sort of a book within a book. Like I love to open these pages because it's sort of like, I don't know, it's like a secret story that I'm telling in this collage spread, and I love it. I just love the texture. It's so beautiful. I love this spread so much because it includes a lot of the things that were on my mind that day. And I was thinking a lot about self-love, and it just led me into including elements of writing. Like this is what I was explaining to you before, this page here, which is the spiral part of a page of a notebook. I like to include that because it made me think of writing love notes to myself, and I actually included a piece of poetry. This is just a torn piece of paper from a poetry book that says love notes, and it led me to thinking about writing love notes to myself. So I created this little pocket, and we can go through that today, and I'll show you how I did this. And I just added some more fabric pieces sort of as a way to leave a love note to myself. And we're going to go through how to create a visual narrative through composition. Now, the word composition is really just how you arrange various elements. So we already talked about how to choose various elements for your collage. So now we're going to talk about how to arrange them in a visual narrative into a composition. So once I have all of my pieces selected, I like to think about how are they going to speak to each other on the page, right? Because the thing about creating artwork or collages or any kind of creative work in general, you want to think about how things speak and relate to one another. You want to talk about the relationships, because art doesn't exist in itself. It exists in relation to something else. So when you have a blank page, I like to think about themes. That's why I talk so heavily about themes, because themes really guide me through the composition. It really guides me through my artistic process into what I want my art to hold for me in that moment. And you can do various things like arrange your elements onto the page, but me personally, I like to work through intuition and seeing how things relate to each other as I go. It's just a real intuitive process because I like to use my emotions and my feelings to guide me through my artistic work and to let my materials also guide me along the story that I want to tell. But I do definitely follow certain guidelines. So I have some other things, some other elements that I do use. Of course, I use paint in my compositions, in my storytelling, of course. And I have other things like double-sided tape, which, I have it, but I don't use it that much. I'm a glue girl. I have some soft gel matte medium by Golden that I love to use. And I also love to use this Scotch quick drying tacky glue. This glues paper together so well. And I often use this magic tape, the Scotch magic tape in my collage spreads and in my art journaling and sketchbooking process. Mainly in my art journaling process, I use a lot of magic tape to hold small elements in my book or any memories or scraps of papers that I want to hold in place quickly. So let's go ahead and build. Let's start building a composition today. Now, I'm thinking I already love, these lines here were created because I actually sewed some thread just to create an added visual line in this collage spread. And it's sort of giving me a jumping off point here where I can start to build from. So I like to think about creating a visual, like an anchor point, a visual anchor to start from. And what I mean by a visual anchor, this is what's really going to ground your collage spread, whether it be a focal point, right? Like a bold color or something that you want to center your collage around. Now, all right, I can't get that paint open. So we're gonna just go with the flow today. I have some clean water and I'm thinking about the theme of nature today. And when I say nature, I mean literally the natural world, right? Like nature outside, but also my artistic nature, right? How I like to create with natural elements, how I like to focus on the way my natural artistic process leads me. I'm actually thinking I should start from a clean page. I'm not sure if I want to include this element in this collage spread today. And that's what I'm talking about. I often just go with the flow of what I'm feeling in the moment, because I think that's one of the purest ways to stay in tune with your process, because the process of creation is, for me, it's about tuning into a more childlike nature of the nature that you were originally created to carry and using that nature to express yourself. And I think as human beings, we are our purest forms when we were children, and actually tuning into that childlike nature is key in collage, because collage, like I said before, it just brings me back to art class. It brings me back to a time when, you were sitting in art and you were just so fascinated by colors and textures and playing with glue and paper. So, and it's fun, Creating and making art is supposed to be lots of fun. So I love to tune into the fun, basically, right? The fun element. So I'm just using some green paint because when I think about nature, I'm thinking about the color green. And I'm using a brush and just creating and I love that this is creating some natural line, but I also want to create some heavier moments of paint. So I think I might just put some paint right down on the paper. And I have lots of palette knives, but I often like to use scraps of paper to spread my paint, because I think there's something, I don't know, it's just a pleasing process to me. That's all I can say about that, because you can use a palette knife. There's nothing wrong with using a palette knife to spread your paint, but I think it's the scratchiness and like the sound of just scratching the paint right onto the page. And that just this is just creating more concentrated spreads of color that I can build off of. And I love the line work that spreading the paint using the brush created on its own. So we're going to build off of that here. And don't be afraid to get messy in your collage spread. I also have these sponges that I don't know if you can see, but this also creates a great texture when working with paint. So I don't know how well this is going to, yeah, I love that. It creates some organic kind of marks. I love this one here. And remember, a lot of these parts may be covered up, but it's about the feeling that you get when you put these marks on the paper and where that feeling leads you. So this is basically my anchor point. This is my visual anchor, thinking about nature, thinking about organic shapes and natural forms in nature. So let's build from there. So of course, in nature, there are so many textures, right? Textures and colors. So I'm thinking about the relationship of each element that I'm putting down. So this paper, of course, is very rough and textured. So I love to add softness, but we may hold off on that for a minute because I have this element here. This is just a little sprig of a flower, and I love the organic shape of this. I love the curves. It's actually mimicking a lot of the curves here and the line work, and let's see how we can include that. So I have this paper here, and I was thinking maybe we can create some sort of envelope, like a little pocket. I love to create little pockets in my collage spread, and often I will rip. I love ripping paper. I mean, you can use scissors to get more straight edges, but I love the organic texture of just ripping paper. I think, I don't know, there's something so playful about ripped paper. It just looks very, I don't know, very whimsical. I think I want to add some paint here somehow. So let's use a little bit of pink and spread this onto the page. Now this is probably going to get a little messy, but that's okay, because that's the fun of it all. I'm thinking I want to attach this here I'm gonna use some soft gel matte medium, and I have this little container. This is actually the container that I use to dip my brush in. I like to use my brush to apply paint. This is actually the only brush that I use to apply my tacky glue. So I like to use water. Actually, yeah, let's use the tacky glue. I was going to use the soft gel matte, but let's use the tacky glue. To apply some glue to the back here. I don't know, should I put a little bit more paint on the front, or maybe I should fold it the other way? And I don't like this straight edge. This is too straight for me. So I'm gonna rip this up a little bit. I don't know if I should use, yeah, I think I just need to put paint on both sides. I might want to apply some other color to just to give a little bit more interest. I think I have some old dry paint. Let's see if that'll come up off the palette. And it's not. I'm definitely just going with the flow of how I feel. And right now, I'm just having a lot of fun putting all of these colors and these textures together, and letting that feeling guide me through the process. I like this because it actually creates more of an anchor point. I like that even better, actually. So I'm going to apply a little bit of glue. I love this glue. I've been using this glue for so long, and this one bottle has lasted me for a very long time. I'm not even sure how long, because I've had it forever. And I didn't apply it to the inside. I just applied it to the back of the paper here. I might add a bit more to really hold it in place. So to create, oops, let's fold this down a bit more. I'm gonna roll that a bit with my brayer to really get my paper glued down nicely. And to create this pocket, I'm not gonna need a lot of space because this is a very thin branch. I might want to bring this down more. No, let's leave it like that. It's fine. I'm going to put some glue just around the edges of the bottom half of the paper, the folded element, the folded part, to create a pocket. And I just want to do it on the sides, not at the top, because of course you want a space where you're going to, you know, place the flower, the branch inside. So I love where this is headed so far. Yeah, I love this. This is so beautiful. So here, I don't know if I want to include, this is a piece of the packaging that actually came with this sketchbook. I do want to include some text. I love to include text into my spreads, but I don't know if I want to include that. I don't know why, just in relation, you know, when I lay this down and I think about the relationship of this, maybe because of the bright white of this, I don't know. There's just something about it that's not, maybe. But maybe I can tear it. Yeah, maybe I can tear it and just use a part of it. And it says from nature. Bingo. Perfect. Perfect. And that's what I mean just by following your intuition and where that guides you through the process, because it's about what you like, right? This is your collage spread. It's about where you find joy and what lights you up. So sometimes even if you're confused and you don't know where to go in your process, just taking a quiet moment, even if you have to walk away, right? Put your elements down together, compare them in relationship to one another, and see how you feel about that. I like this right here, probably somewhere here. Or maybe across like that would be kind of nice. Just to add some direction, more of a visual line between the paper going diagonally and the branch curving diagonally as well. I love that so far. I'm thinking about adding more pink somehow. I do love this as well. I love the darker pink with the lighter pink. I think that's very beautiful. Not sure where I want to go with this yet, but I think this is a strong contender of something that I can use in my spread here. Now this is some of my past work. Like I said, I have so many things out right now on the table. This is some past work, and let's see if I rip this up. How I'm gonna feel. But I love using the edge of this paper, so maybe if I paint on this part. That can also give me sort of a tie-in to the text on the page. Let's see. Let's see if I blend these two colors together. I'm literally just going, you know, with the flow of how I feel here. That's okay. sort of a muted, more of a muted pink. That might be something to use, but I'm not quite sure. But let's see. I'm not sure how I feel about this right now. I'm just letting it dry for a little bit to see if I do want to include that. I like this. I like this because it's building more textures on the paper, and it's mimicking or echoing some of the colors that are already on the paper, like the green. And I love this dark berry color right here. It's sort of mimicking or echoing the colors here. So let's glue that down. And if you're wondering if me having this brush, dipping the brush in water, if it sort of, I don't know, decreases the effectiveness of the glue, I haven't found that to be the case. I think I just like to keep it in water so the brush doesn't dry out too much. Because when the glue is definitely going to dry in your brush, right? And you want to wash your brushes definitely after working with them. But sometimes I don't wash my brushes immediately. I'm gonna be real. I don't wash them immediately. Sometimes I leave them and then the glue will dry up and it'll be hell to get that glue out of the brush. I love where this collage has taken us today. I want to walk you through the theme and the story of nature that we've used to create this collage spread today. And I love using collage. It's one of the greatest ways in art to tell a story by combining various elements together and creating compositions. So in this spread, I love it because we actually created a new page by using a template and cutting out a page from a book and gluing it here, and that created an extra page and more space to storytell. So I wanted to use nature in this spread as a teacher and a guide through this process, because through nature we can learn so much. So I used a flower from a book that I painted over to echo the flower in my own work that I created. And I love how the greens and the pinks have come together here. I also love, we started this collage by using a visual anchor, and I often love to start my collage spreads by thinking about grounding the spread or anchoring the spread with paint often, and I see that peeking through here in the background, and it also brings some more organic shapes and an organic curve that also echoes the curve of a petal or the curve of a leaf, and it also offers some more line work that echoes through the line that we created here by using some embroidery. And I also love to use composition in my materials by comparing and contrasting and see how each element that we add speak to each other, basically, how they talk, how each element talks to each other in the collage. And I love to balance the texture, the rough texture of the paper, which I love so much, by adding softness. We've added some softness through various strips of fabric here that we painted on to add more of visual texture through color. And I added some ribbon to sort of act as a bookmark to this little surprise moment. And I like to add a lot of surprise moments in my collages because sometimes, actually oftentimes, the inspiration and the beauty that we're searching for in nature is all around us, but sometimes it can be hidden. And I love to include that story also in the larger story of using nature to guide us through our creative process. So I have this little hidden moment here with some text because I love books and I think books are so alive, and it's a great way to add more depth into your visual story. So I love where this has taken us today, and this page, as we turn the page, it just makes me so happy. I love how this has come together. I love this page. I love the washes of pink. I love using the natural floral branch here, and also adding this text to show our theme of nature, but also the way I've added it on a diagonal to form a visual line here to echo and go along with the line that we've created. Actually, the branch, we didn't do nothing. The branch actually did its magic here and created more visual line through composition and adding various text that was already in the book, but also through other elements of text that we've added just to continue with the theme of nature and letting nature and our intuition guide us through the process of making. I've added another hidden and surprise element here where I stitched two pieces of fabric together, and this says the most beautiful things, because I believe that the most beautiful things are found in nature, and that includes us, right? We are not separate from nature in any way. So I just added that here with cotton because that, is a texture that's found in nature. So I love this. I really enjoyed sharing this process of how to use collage to tell a visual story. It has been such a fun process to share with you today.